Okay, so in this video here, I'm just going to run through number 1 from section 3.1. The question gives us a series of graphs, and it asks us to state the positive and negative intervals and the intervals of increase and decrease. Let's give it a look. Okay, so for A, we have a graph here, and it appears to be the reciprocal of a line, because it has a horizontal asymptote at 0, and it has a vertical asymptote at x equals -1. The marker's dying a little bit on me. Let me see if I can grab a better one. Okay, so you also have the graph in front of you, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time drawing it out. So let's start off with the positive and negative intervals. So the positive is when it's above the x-axis. So we're always moving rightwards. So if this spot here is -1, as we move rightwards, we're above the x-axis. So it's as we move rightwards, are we above the x-axis or below the x-axis? When it's positive, we're looking for it to be above the x-axis. So as I move rightwards from -1, it's positive. So from -1 to infinity. However, if we're talking about when it's negative down here, right? So from negative infinity, right, that'd be negative infinity, this would be infinity. From negative infinity to -1, we're below the x-axis. So from negative infinity to -1, we're below the x-axis. Now when's it increasing and when's it decreasing? Okay, this function here, so the increasing decreasing thing, it just means as we move rightwards, are we going up or down? So as we move rightwards, is there any time for this graph where it's moving upwards? No. It's going down here and it's going down there. So that's as we move rightwards, it's going down and it's going down. So it's never increasing, it's always decreasing. Except for, we can't just say negative infinity to infinity because it's not doing anything at -1. So it's actually from negative infinity to -1, or from -1 to infinity. Just like that. So that's number 1A. Let's do a couple more of these together. Okay, so I'm just going to erase the bottom part here. And I'll erase the graph here. Let's do 1B. Okay, so 1B, we just have a line here. And it has an x-intercept of -4 and a y-intercept of 6. So it looks like that. So when's it positive? That means when is it above the x-axis? So from -4 to infinity. So again, we're always focused on the we're focused on the x for as we move rightwards, but in terms of positive and negative, we're focused on the y in the sense of when are we above the x-axis, when are we below. We're positive when we're above the x-axis, we're negative when we're below the x-axis. So from -4 to infinity, we are positive. From negative infinity to -4, we are negative. So -4 to infinity, we're positive, and we're negative from negative infinity to -4. Let me repeat that, because from negative infinity to -4, this is below the x-axis, right? That's the x-axis, we're below. And then from -4 to infinity, we are above the x-axis, so it's positive. When's it increasing? This graph here, as we move rightwards, is always going up. So it's increasing the entire time from negative infinity to infinity, and it's never decreasing. It's only going up. That's what a linear graph is. It always has a constant rate of change. It's always going to be the same. So it's always, a linear graph's always going to be increasing or decreasing, or neither, if it's a horizontal or vertical line. Okay. My camera length can't go too long. How much time do we got here? Okay, I think I can have enough time to do C. Okay, so for C, we have what appears to be a sinusoidal function. We'll be getting into graphing these in unit 5 and 6. So this starts at 0, and then it works its way up to what appears to be about 3 and down to, we'll say, -2. It seems to go just a little bit past. we don't really need to get too caught up in the y values here. But the x values, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Again, you should have the graph in front of you because I'm not going to spend too long making sure that this drawing's perfect here. And at 3, it looks like we hit a minimum somewhere around there. 4, 5, and then 6. We start here, so it goes kind of like that. Okay. So again, we're looking for when it's positive, when it's negative, when it's increasing, and lastly, when it's decreasing. Okay, so this graph here, when is it positive? Okay, it's positive, so that just means when's it above the x-axis. Okay, 0 to 2, and 4 to 6. When is it negative? It's negative from 2 to 4. That just means when's it below the x-axis? It's below the x-axis from 2 to 4. When's it increasing? Okay, it's increasing at multiple points here. It's increasing from 0 to 1. That means as we move rightwards, it's going up from 0 to 1. Again, that's along the x-axis. And then it decreases from 1 to 3. So it starts going down from 1 to 3. Then it starts going up again from 3 to 5. It's increasing from 3 to 5. And then it decreases again from 5 to 6. Like so. Okay. How much time do I got now? 6.5 minutes. Let's run through D. I'll chance it. If this video ends prematurely, then it's just a homework video. You guys will get the main idea. Okay, so for D, we have a graph here. We got -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. I don't really need to actually write 0. Just assume that it's 0 where it's the y-axis. And then we have y values 1, 2, -1, -2. The key points along here are -1, -2, somewhere around here. 0, 0, 2, 1, 2, and then around there. So this one here, we're going to have to get kind of approximate with what we're doing here. It doesn't give us exact points, unfortunately. So we're looking for when it's positive. When is it negative? When is it increasing? And lastly, when is it decreasing? So again, we're always focused on as we move rightwards. So let's start off with positive and negative intervals. So if we start from negative infinity and work our way to infinity, from negative infinity to about, on the graph this actually looks like approximately -1.7. So we'll say negative infinity to -1.7, it's above the x-axis, right? Then, the next time we're going to be above the x-axis is from 0 to what looks like it's about positive 1.7. Next we're looking for when's it negative. So in other words, when is it below the x-axis? Just want to fix my arrows. So it's below the x-axis from what appears to be about -1.7 to 0. I'm not sure exactly what the solution says in the book. It should be something like 1.7-ish. It's also negative from about 1.7 to infinity. Okay, lastly, when's it increasing? This is increasing from when x is -1 to x is 1. So it's, in other words, it's going up as we move rightwards from -1 to 1. And then it's going down. Actually, that's incorrect. No, that's correct. And then it's going down. Again, as we move rightwards, it's going down from negative infinity to -1. And from 1 to infinity. So again, it's as we move rightwards along x, what is the function doing? It's above the x-axis, so it's positive from negative infinity to -1.7, and then again from 0 to 1.7. It's below the x-axis from -1.7 to 0, and then from 1.7 to infinity. It's increasing, so as we move rightwards, when's it going up? it's only going up from -1 to 1. The rest of the time it's going down as we move rightwards, right? Part of the reason it looks confusing is because it's going up on that side. But it's as we move rightwards, not as we move leftwards. So as we move rightwards from -infinity to -1, it's actually going down. As we move rightwards from 1 to infinity, it's going down. So infinity to -1 and 1 to infinity. Okay, hopefully this is making some sense. If it's not, just respond in this forum here and I will do what I can to help. Alright, thanks.